Welcome to the Grace-Filled Food Freedom Podcast. In this podcast, you can expect to be inspired and equipped to ditch diets, eat well, and let your light shine. Every time you listen, you can expect practical tips straight from the Word of God that are going to get you on the road to food freedom today. Gooey bites of deliciousness that will make you shimmy in your seat because you know that God is speaking directly to you. Are you ready? All right, grab a fork. Let's dive in. Eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. That's really great advice. But for those of us who spent years or decades ignoring our body's signals through dieting, restrictive eating, or binge eating, that can be a tall order. In fact, I tried intuitive eating when I was still stuck in the diet mindset, and I turned even that into a diet. And maybe you can relate. Today, we are talking about chapter 9 of my new book, Fully Nourished. And that chapter is called Decoding Hunger and Fullness, because sometimes it felt like a formula that I didn't quite understand. And there's a reason why we don't talk about hunger and fullness first in the book or in my platinum program. And that's based on my own experience, so it may or may not apply to you. But as I mentioned, I turned intuitive eating into a diet where if I wasn't eating exactly when I was hungry or stopping just when I was full, I felt like a failure. And so I never got to the experimental phase where I could uncover those signals naturally. And so for me, I really benefited from using more of a cognitive approach to portion sizes, using sort of my common sense, for lack of a better term, to help me decide how much to eat and when. And so if we're talking about how to fuel your body, it can be helpful to start from a place of consistency, imperfect or not. The binge diet cycle is going to keep you on high highs and low lows, and that's nothing to build from. And so we definitely want to establish some healthy eating rhythms first. And that's what the first part of the book and my program do. Let's change the way you think about food. Let's allow it to not have such a grip. And then we're going to slowly start tweaking the types and amounts of foods that we eat so that those signals can naturally emerge. And that's really the starting point. When you begin to feel comfortable with those signals, then your body is inviting you into a more purposeful study of them. And so I often recommend when you're journeying into hunger and fullness, starting with a focus of either one. And I learned this from a great coach who taught me when I was new to nutrition coaching. Well, they are two bookends of the same body signal, right? They really feed off of one another. Trying to get them both all the time is just plain overwhelming. So, looking at eating when you're hungry or stopping when you're full for one or a couple of meals a day is a really great place to start. It's definitely not all or nothing. And so, which do you start with? Well, you start with whatever feels most enjoyable to you, exciting, interesting. Like maybe you're like me and you have a history with restrictive eating, and so waiting until you're hungry feels a little intimidating. Or maybe that sounds invigorating and you think, wow, I love how good food tastes when I'm hungry. I'm going to focus on that. Or maybe focusing on fullness feels like an easier win. Earlier in the book, we spoke about adjusting your food quantity by just visually noticing what it is that you typically eat and really taking snacks and all of those nibbles that happen throughout the day and consolidating them to your planned meals and snacks. And so that may mean adjusting the amount of food that you eat at a meal to achieve that full satisfaction, not stuffed, but not walking away from the table still thinking about foods. So the best answer is pick the one that appeals the most to you and start there. Because like I said, they're both bookends of the same habit. And here's what I mean by that. Let's say you overshoot and you eat a little bit more than you need at a meal, or a lot more than you need. Guess what? Your body's hunger signal will just be delayed a little bit longer. There's nothing major. You can trust that your body will adjust. Let's say that you wait longer to eat than ideal. You get to the table and you are ravenously hungry. Guess what? You're probably just going to eat a little bit more than if you'd eaten a bit earlier. It's okay. There's no line of perfection. Your body will adjust. Let's say you're at a meal and you stop eating a little sooner than maybe would have been ideal. Like we're often trying to tweak portions and eat the least amount possible. Well, that doesn't usually work out well. But when we're embracing hunger and fullness, we can simply respond to that signal later and have a snack. You literally cannot do this wrong, but it does help to have some of that preparatory work done where we're adjusting the food quality and quantity so that we've got some clearer signals to work with. Because if we're eating mostly processed food or food that we don't enjoy, the signals are going to be kind of wonky because there's so many other factors included with that. So if you're just joining me here on this podcast now and you just started listening to this episode, definitely go back to the beginning of the series and start there. So, what are some tips for eating when you're hungry? Well, I think an experimental mindset, an inquisitive mind is the best place to begin. There's no right or wrong, there's just paying attention and seeing what you notice. Now, here's a little reality check. As soon as you start thinking about your hunger signal, it's going to pop up probably a little more often than it did before. If you've ever had to fast for blood work, right? Maybe you don't even ever eat breakfast, but you fast for blood work and now you're hungry in the morning. That's kind of what that focus can do. So look at your own hunger and fullness signals and start to go from there. What does it feel like when it's been a few hours since your last meal? Maybe you had lunch and it's 4 o'clock and you're not eating dinner for a little bit, and you notice that your stomach feels empty, and then there's a grumbling and maybe some warmth that happens. Maybe you start to become more aware of food. Like you're not emotionally wanting to eat, but you just know where the food is and how long it will be till you eat, right? Hunger signals are going to look different for everyone. Now, how about stopping when you're full? This trips up ladies a lot. So if you struggle with this, there's nothing wrong with you. It's hard to stop when you're hungry when we're busy and our minds are going and we're eating fast and there's so many things happening. It's rare, right, that we get to sit down and just pay attention to our food. And so stopping when full gets harder when we are eating more quickly or distracted. So I have a couple of tips for you with that. First, you may want to mentally divide your meal into quarters. And you don't have to do this. I mean, I guess if you were home by yourself, you could. And separate it out and just pause every once in a while, halfway through your meal or third way or every quarter, and check in. All right, how does it feel? Am I content with this amount of food? Do I want to keep eating? Again, there's no right or wrong answer here. You just take your best guess and continue going. Sometimes you're going to stop eating sooner than ideal and you'll need a snack. Sometimes you may overshoot and not be hungry for a while. But the more that you can practice and look at those signals from a gentle observational mindset, the easier it will be able to sense them because you're not judging, you're noticing, and you're growing in that skill set. And over time, with practice, you won't have to think about it very much at all. And the best tip of all is to really pray for the Lord to give you guidance. Listen, our God is big and He wants to be involved in every area of your life, even if discerning hunger and fullness signals is on the top of that list right now. It sometimes can feel like not that important, but let me tell you, God's power is not diluted one iota helping you with how to eat at your meal. So definitely ask Him in, ask for His guidance, and it's just an opportunity for you to fellowship and talk with Him in such a daily activity.
Because when you bring the Lord into every area of your life, well, It changes everything. Do you have weight loss on the brain? Well, welcome to the club, my sister, because weight loss seems to be an Olympic sport these days. Women are constantly thinking about and talking about losing weight, as well as saying negative things about their current shape and size. And we don't want to settle for just the average relationship with our bodies. However, as you begin to enter this faith-based focus on health and fitness, there can be some shame associated with weight loss goals. And I want to alleviate that for you. Listen, we have enough guilt and shame in our lives. The last thing we need to do is heap on more. And that's why I want you to introduce today's freebie, which is the Prayer for Weight Loss Toolkit. If it matters to you, it matters to God. So bring those weight loss desires to Him in prayer. What's the purpose of prayer? Oh, it's not to convince God to do things our way. It's to align our hearts with His will. And isn't that what you want for your body and for your weight loss? So go ahead and grab today's freebie with the link in the show notes below. Oh, just one more thing. If you have a moment, could you please, pretty please, with a sprinkle on top, go and leave us a podcast rate and review? When you do that, it's like sprinkling a special podcast fairy dust on the Grace-Filled Food Freedom podcast. It lets Apple and all the other podcast apps know that this is a very helpful, very relevant podcast, and it will show it to lots more women just like you, women who need hope and need food freedom. Do you mind? Awesome. Thanks. I really appreciate it. Well, it certainly was lovely to spend some time with you, sis. I hope that you're enjoying a taste of food freedom. Now, if you're looking for more of an entree, I'd love to officially invite you to my Platinum program. It's a 6-month deep dive, start to finish program that is going to immerse you in God's Word and God's plan for food freedom. You can find out more at gracefulplate.com/platinum. Be sure to check it out. I'll see you there.